Perhaps
It's
the best place
time
to start is where most
to
of us
beat
began.
Ganon once and for all.
When I first played this game, I was completely lost. Skull Kid steals your ocarina and transforms you into a Deku Scrub. The Happy Mask Salesman gives you 3 days to retrieve Majora's Mask from him, and you're stuck in Clock Town for about an hour as you adjust to your new form. Here is what I remember from my first playthrough of this game back in 2009. Yeah, I was a bit late to the party. I wasn't sure of how I was going to reach Skull Kid at first, but I did learn that Deku Link could burrow into Deku Flowers and launch into the air. As soon as I exited the Clock Tower basement, I saw a flower on my right that was a different color from the rest. Once I talked to the scrub that lived there, I had my goal.
I thought I was Link with the long hair from the second game for real. Right there for a second.
The concept, this sounds just like the original Legend of Zelda, which let the player loose in an open world without any prior knowledge of what they were supposed to do. But what actually ensues here is a lot of running around aimlessly, a lot of talking to people, a lot of reading, a lot of hide and seek, and a lot of tinkle. This part of the game can take an entire 3-day cycle to complete if you don't pass time with the Scarecrow, which means the first hour of the game could just be the player endlessly wandering and collecting information. It also probably didn't help that Link had a completely different set of abilities than I was used to for the vast majority of the game's introduction. Beyond the tutorial, I found myself further overwhelmed as I played through the game. I learned about the Song of Inverted Time and Double Time, as well as the usefulness of certain masks, but for the longest time I was struggling. For starters, the Bomber's Notebook was an incredible concept. With everyone moving and adhering to their own schedules, keeping track of their requests felt like you were playing an entirely different game within Majora's Mask that rewarded you with helpful items for use with the main quest. But what scared me away initially were the sheer amount of side quests. 52 heart pieces, 21 optional masks, and only 4 dungeons. Majora's Mask is asking a lot of the player's own ingenuity from the get-go, especially as you move from cycle to cycle when playing the Song of Time. It may not even align with what most people came to
That might have been a panic moon.
Link to the Past and Ocarina
but regardless, whatever. May as well. Let's go activate everything.
Majora's Mask does strike a similar balance in its own ways through its increase in difficulty over Ocarina of Time and fascinating locales like Ikana Castle and the Pirate's Fortress. But the game really wants you to focus on the side quests for reasons that weren't apparent to me at the time. Even if you manage to pick up on some of the side quests on your first playthrough, there's a chance you might run into a dead end or miss your window of opportunity, forcing you to start all over again on another day. There's also the issue with some quests forcing you to re-enter dungeons and refight bosses just so that you can restore peace to a certain part of Termina, just for a heart piece. For a first-timer, it is simply impossible to plan out routes ahead of time because there's no way of knowing what will be possible after finishing a dungeon, nor will you have enough time to do everything that's possible in one go. Although I did finish Majora's Mask back then and I found myself enthralled all the same, I didn't even come close to appreciating everything it had to offer. To be fair, I was quite young and I didn't have enough experience with games that revolved around time management, so it took me a while to approach the game again later. As time went on, I seemed to be able to recall a single moment that made me want to give Majora's Mask another shot someday. Up until the final day, there's a huge boulder blocking your way to the Romani Range. Once that boulder was finally cleared, I made my way in. I saw a wide open range to run around in and a familiar tune began to play. I was excited to see what this place had to offer. As I approached the buildings in the distance, I noticed my horse was locked up. Romani was acting like she had seen the end of the world, and the ranch was shrouded in an atmosphere of distress that I'll never forget. It left such a huge impact on me. I didn't know how I was going to help them, but I knew that I wanted to. And little did I know, that would be an integral part of what makes Majora's Mask special. About a year after my first playthrough of Majora's Mask, the creepypasta Ben Drowned took the internet by storm. On its 10th anniversary, I decided to relive it, and it holds up surprisingly well. Despite seeming a bit cliched now, you have to understand that Ben Drowned invented these cliches. At the time, it was a groundbreaking experience to watch unfold, and one that actually encouraged people to play Majora's Mask. Of course, the game isn't nearly as disturbing as the creepypasta, but it certainly was dour. Whether it was the uncanniness of this statue, or how unsettling the Song of Healing is when played in reverse, there were a lot of places to draw inspiration from in the source material. Anyone who plays Majora's Mask will tell you about how creepy it is. The things that people say and do, the locations you visit, and the events that take place are all abnormal for a game that proudly carried an E for Everyone rating, and abnormal for Zelda as a whole. The scene where Link is transformed into a Deku Scrub accurately mirrored a nightmare co-director Eiji Aonuma had the night before, as he and his team were working around a hectic development schedule. Not only was this the first game Aonuma had ever directed, it had to be developed in 1 year. I can't help but feel as if they let the stress that came from developing Majora's Mask pour into its narrative and world. The game's cult following, the art that it inspired, as well as the strict development cycle, in this game guaranteeing Aonuma-san his position as Zelda series producer, allowed Majora's Mask to cast a large shadow over me as a Zelda fan. It was waiting in the background for me to play it again someday, almost staring me down. A couple of years later, that day came. Like magic, everything began to click with me.
Oh god, wow, that guy's actually climbing. Like they do in the cutscenes.
I was always reworking an optimal route in my mind to
How come
collect each mask and artifacts for the least amount of
they would
time.
have been way more threatening? I mean,
I was in love with Majora's Mask.
Guardians don't randomly spawn and they are in locations
What
with...
caused this huge shift in perspective? Well, let's start over.
You know what? You're gonna get it.
Here we are again at that first part of the game where you run around the clock town as Deku. Although I didn't realize it at the time, and not most of us would have, this segment is absolutely necessary. It's an essential part of Majora's Mask, and might just be one of the most important tutorials in Zelda history. But without a doubt, the most important part of the tutorial is the part where you wander around desperate for information. When I was younger, I didn't understand why I needed to talk to all of these people first. But now that I've played Majora's Mask several times thanks to the stellar design concepts and addictive feedback, I've discovered the world. This kind of information seeking is exactly what you need to do in order to help you. You do this throughout the entire game, not just to further your Bomber's Notebook, but also to progress through the primary quest. Every time you enter a new area, you need to consistently assess your surroundings in the same way. As I familiarize myself with the various buildings and locales within Clock.
What the heck is going on with that choo-choo?
The milk bar and the various minigame huts, I
That was
learned
weird.
ways to potentially expand my arsenal or solve problems. I learned that there's a bank I can store my rupees in for rewards, and for emergency purchases if need be. I listened to dialogue to stay informed of what's to come in my quest, as well as the circumstances of the people of Clocktown. All of this information proved to be crucial later on, as I explored Termina for heart pieces and upgrades. It proved to me that my attentiveness would pay off in the long run, both for progression's sake and my own. Let's take a look at Snowhead as an example of how attentiveness in the act of examining things, or simply talking to people, can help. As you enter, there's a tall wall, a freezing Goron, a cabin that casts a stark contrast over the endless snow, and 2 paths to take. One leads to a Goron village with a baby crying for his father, and the other leads to Snowhead Mountain. If you talk to the people in the cabin, you'll learn that they're willing to enhance swords when it's not freezing. This gives you something to look out for later down the line. After retrieving the Lens of Truth and learning how it works, you come back to the area with the cabin and look at that wall again. You'll see that it's actually scalable. Once you climb it, you'll retrieve the Goron mask, and from there, many more possibilities open up to you. Stemming from the exploration and information seeking you've already done. Even after you complete the dungeon and Spring returns to Snowhead, if you remember to pay the blacksmiths another visit and pursue the Gilded Sword by winning the Goron race, your reward will be a weapon that deals twice the damage. Now, I'm not going to summarize the rest of the game as if this is a walkthrough. I just wanted to give you a glimpse into what the attentiveness in Clocktown teaches the player later down the line. And these quests in particular, where you're running around looking for your transformation masks and helping the people in Termina, demonstrate the 3 things that make the feedback loop of Majora's Mask so enduring. First of all, they act as a culmination of skills you learn and practice over the course of the main quest. Part of what makes the density of
And
Majora's
dash
Mask
just in
so
case it does
lovely
rain.
is its ability to flesh out concepts through both level and puzzle design. For example, one of the first minigames you can attempt features a bunch of moving platforms.
Something I hate about Pro Mode is the
On the
weather
first day, they move up and
forecast.
down. On the second day, they move in
That
circles of
part of
various
the
sizes.
HUD
And on the
is
final
only
day,
accessible.
they move up these things and go up the wild roads.
リーバルトルネードいつでも OK だ。
Well, once you reach Woodfall, you'll have to sneak into a holding cell to free your monkey friend. After overcoming a game of stealth, you'll find yourself flying across platforms with Deku flowers and taking out a few scrubs that attempt to impede your progress. This is followed by a swamp as enemies fly around and swat you from its path. If you manage to conquer the section's landscape unscathed, you'll learn a piece of art, as well as the entrance to the
Only accessible if you have the normal GUI, which really sucks.
Because I cleared that mini-game,
There's no reason why that should be the way it is.
It demonstrates the duality present in Majora's Mask's design, and how your own drive to seek out side quests can influence the main quest. There are plenty of examples of this kind of difficulty progression in Majora's Mask. Before you attempt the Goron race, you'll have to have cleared that tricky spiral on Snowhead. Before you enter the Great Bay Temple with the Zora Mask and attempt to navigate that central complex of tunnels with currents that suck you away, as well as the various mazes throughout, you can follow these beavers through rings in a race against time to become proficient with the swooping controls. That of which are... Yeah, the transformation masks are so fun that they make up for a small item selection in this game. They add a significant layer of depth to the way you can interact with the world. And these examples I've given stem simply from the core abilities of the transformation masks. I haven't mentioned the nuances that can give you an edge, like how Deku Link can spin just as he leaves a lily pad to maintain his speed and momentum as he skips across the water. This has saved me more times than I can count, and it's incredibly satisfying to pull off consistently. Or how about landing on a higher platform after leaping from the water as Zora Link and get your trajectory just right. I'll be discussing them further throughout this video, but it was a breath of fresh air to have 3 new, fleshed out ways of interacting with the Zelda world, and it still is. Speaking of the limited item selection, I think that's part of the reason these examples work so well in the context of the game's design. You have bombs, arrows, the hookshot, the lens of truth, and a few random assorted perishable items that return from Ocarina of Time thanks to their ability. The others pertain to a handful of side quests.
I'm gonna go make an ancient
Other
sword.
side quests are solved with masks. Masks have very specific uses in Termina, making their application feel all the more rewarding when you realize what can be done. And your acclimation to the utility of these masks improves with each playthrough, something that I didn't realize when I first played the game, but I have since embraced. Garo's mask will enlighten you to some tricks you can use in Ikana Castle. The Gibdo mask lets you sneak past or otherwise make Gibdos docile, and the Mask of Sense allows you to sniff for mushrooms and woodfall to create potions. And here's a really weird example. Just outside of the Romani Ranch is a racetrack for dogs, where you bet on which dog you think will win. You can throw on the Mask of Truth and read their thoughts. If you bet on the one that says, "I'm here for my wife and kids," there's no way I'll lose. It will have a very high likelihood of winning, and it's guaranteed to break the top 3 every time. With weird masks that have specific uses across Termina, this leads us into the second part of Majora's feedback. The rewards. Every reward you obtain in Majora's Mask seems to lead into another quest somehow, or contributes to your main quest.
I kinda like the
residents of
dweller.
Termina have intersecting schedules, which lead you to more quests, which grants you more rewards and masks, which unlock more possibilities as you fall further down
Like
the path.
thistles.
Let's start with one of the most important rewards in Majora's Mask: empty bottles. In this game, there are 6, and although the usual uses for them still exist in this game, like storing potions, milk, and things to sell, they are pivotal in one of the game's primary quests. In order to return to Luku's voice and reunite the Indigogos, you'll need to retrieve her stolen eggs and learn a song from them. That is a very strange sentence. Anyway, in order to complete this task in one trip to the Pirate's Fortress, you'll need at least 4 empty bottles. This is one of those moments on my initial playthrough of Majora's Mask that annoyed me, but I came to understand the importance of it later on. Here, it became clear to me that empty bottles were extremely valuable in this game. Whereas I could take or leave empty bottles in Ocarina of Time depending on how good I was at resource management, they were a necessity here. Here are 3 key reasons you should be collecting empty bottles in this game. 1. This game is much harder than Ocarina of Time. We'll go into more detail about this soon, but let's just say you might want to hold on to any fairies that you can bottle up or some green potion when you need to fire off a few more elemental arrows. Even some of the mini-games can be tough.
Beetle, I want arrows.
Both of the shooting galleries ask a lot of your own reflexes and overall proficiency with the bow, and Honey and Darling's minigames want you to aim bomb shoots, bomb throws, and your arrows as the platform constantly rotates. This game is brutal sometimes, but as you'll learn in due time, it's welcome. Number 2, they play an active part in progression as demonstrated here,
I have a
meaning that
full
you'll always
inventory.
have to go out of your way to explore the world, solve puzzles, and help people, just as Zelda has always wanted you. Number 3, they allow you to hang on to miscellaneous items you can find in your quest, like post souls, which go for a pretty penny at the curiosity. This allows you to put more money in the bank, and as you save up, you'll upgrade your wallet size and eventually earn a piece of heart. This not only sets a standard for the importance of rupees, but it's also yet another example of how certain quests can branch off and affect other quests throughout the world. When you're not clearing dungeons, you're navigating an addictive, interconnected puzzle box for goodies, and one of Zelda's best at that.
Hey!
The motivation behind these philosophies applies to basically all of the rewards you can find in tournament. Sometimes the rewards can be disproportionate to the tasks at hand, but it makes sense when you consider how investigative you have to be in order to find them. For example, on the outskirts of Ikana Canyon, there's a circle of stones. In Ocarina of Time, this would signify that you could drop a bomb in the middle to reveal a hole. In fact, Majora's Mask still has those circles. But if you instead use the Lens of Truth, you'll see Shiro, a lonely soldier that blames himself for being hidden away from the naked eye. By curing him with a red potion, you'll get the Stone Piece. Although its purpose isn't immediately evident, and it seems to be a humorous representation of this soldier's problems, had you nabbed this mask before the Pirate's Fortress, your time there will be made infinitely easier. Pirates that guard the eggs won't notice you at all, fitting of this poor guy's struggles. The level itself is an exceptionally fun and non-linear puzzle box, and although the stone mask completely annihilates the skeleton, it feels like a great reward because of how easy it is to miss this mask in the first place. Another example, these two characters never interact, they are connected. If you listen to this guy's problems, he'll thank you and give you the threaded mask. It allows you to march along with small enemies. Use with baby Fugos here. This guy will give you the bunny food, my favorite mask in the entire game. You run faster and jump farther with it equipped. Even after you rescue your horse, it's a godsend. It saves you plenty of time when traversing any area, and it can even be beneficial in a couple of side quests, like the race for the Deku Bunker, or that jumping minigame in Great Bay. Basically, anything that tests you on or requires movement is made infinitely easier with the bunny food. And if you ever need to take it off to make precise jumps or slow down, all you have to do is press it on. But the mask I love is the Blast Mask. At the expense of some health, it can completely replace bombs. This is another example of a reward that feels appropriate given how obscure the task is in the grand scheme of things. This mask is obtained in North Cloudtown on the first visit. To figure out that it exists, you have to either hang out there on a chance to spot this mysterious lad, or learn about it through a gossip stone with the Mask of Truth. Yeah, there's another use for that thing, making it one hell of a reward. It can clue you into some amazing stuff, and once again, how much you learn about Majora's Mask depends on your willingness to accept and explore every inch of its dense, diverse world. Rewards have in common, though, are examples of just how detailed they intertwine every aspect of time. Every mindful detail. No matter how minuscule a problem might be, solving it just might give you something. There are some rewards I have ever on the table, there's still one element that ultimately ties this game's feedback. Time management.
I should have gone for a Hybox after all.
So much to do in Termina, and yet so little time. Thus, you must pick and choose the clock is always ticking, even as your arsenal expands. But at the same time, how much you can fit into a 3-day cycle can determine how long your playthrough lasts. You have to constantly strike a balance between prioritizing the main quest, shorter side quests, and longer side quests throughout a repeating 3-day cycle, making sure that you never miss an appointment or an opportunity to grab a mask or piece of art. The game first introduces you to effective time management in, where else, the tutorial, with a game of hide-and-seek between you and the Bomber Society. If you don't catch them all by the time the sun goes up on any given day, you'll have to start over. You're only informed of these circumstances through failure, which is something that Majora's Mask banks on in its design. I mentioned a downside of this earlier in the video. There are moments in which no one would realize they'd missed their chance in quests like the Frog Choir, which requires you to have enough time after clearing the dungeon in the first place. If you miss your chance, you'll have to refight Goat and waste your precious time. Thus, one can only truly understand what makes Majora's Mask a great game by putting the time in to learn about its world. As we've already discussed, a lot can come out of this. But what comes next is planning out your route. That Deku Scrub minigame symbolizes the beginning of this process. Although it's accessible from the very beginning of the game, it just might prove too difficult in the first cycle. This is something that you have to prepare for. Ideally, you'll have a schedule lined out according to your bomber's notebook and your mental notes of how long each quest should take.
What happened to the
Sometimes
picture I
things
saw?
don't go as planned. What if a dungeon takes longer than you predicted? Will you still be able to finish off those side quests in time, or will you have to refight the boss on a new cycle? Can you fit smaller side quests in with a massive 3-day undertaking? How much can you do before the moon crashes into Termina? Efficiency in doing this can lead to a shorter playthrough, intense satisfaction when you meet all of your deadlines, and at the end of the day, an addictive feedback loop. This self-imposed challenge is what makes Majora's Mask an immensely replayable game. Here is a recap of the moment I realized Majora's Mask was more than just a pretty face. This happened on my second playthrough in 2012, when I had a semi-developed brain. Just after I had finished the Stone Tower Temple, I decided that I was going to spend the remaining time I had left on the game's long-limited trading quest. In each of the game's primary areas, you'll find a Deku Scrub wanting to see the world. If you trade land deeds with them, you'll gain access to a piece of heart. By the end, you should complete a new heart container and gain 200 rupees in the process. Grabbing heart pieces incrementally as you gain new transformation masks can be tantalizing, but it ultimately wastes time. The best course of action is to do it all in one shot. Although this can be time-consuming, it also gives you a chance to revisit areas and grab loot by the
This was from the Fire
To
Rod.
maximize my efficiency, I wanted to make sure that I didn't leave any stone unturned after finishing. I finished up a few mini-games as I went along, clearing the Swamp Spider House, 2 beaver races, some Lockdown stuff, and I even finished off Ikana Canyon's bonus content in the nick of time. And even as I finally met all that criteria I laid out for myself, I was wondering what I was going to do on the first day of the next cycle. Perhaps attempt the Ocean Spider House for the final wallet upgrade, set up the most infamous quest in the game. Ruby chests respawn after you return to the first day, so maybe I grab a few rupees to make up for lost time. I caught myself in this moment and paused the game, realizing that I'd been playing for 6 hours. It's not going to be everyone's cup of tea. If you're playing through the main game and ignoring heart pieces and masks, almost none of this will be apparent. Even those that struggle most with dungeons will still be able to finish it off in one cycle, as long as it's their own focus. But as I ventured further into Termina and as I expanded my arsenal, I discovered what the gameplay of Majora's Mask is really all about. Experience, my efficiency for the 3-day cycle sharpened. It's an endearing cycle of risk versus reward as I race against the clock to both expand my arsenal and progress through the game against some of the toughest challenges Zelda has ever had to offer. Against the aggressive backdrop of the new world, I strove to do everything I could. Because of the pure fun towards whatever side quest provides, I was conditioned to discomfort and challenge. Even still, there are things left to be discussed with primarily, what is all going to this. Although Majora's Mask has a lot to do with its own I feel it is ultimately to set you up for the game's dungeons and bosses. Otherwise, it'd be hard to justify having 52 heart pieces. And boy, let me tell you, these are some of the most creative, packed, and challenging dungeons Zelda has ever seen. Not only that, but they too encompass the key components of this game's feedback. Let's start by discussing the ideas and difficulty implementation. Woodfall Temple takes place across 2 floors, and features a smooth progression in ideas not unlike what I've discussed previously. Using Deku Flowers to traverse is followed by puzzles where you need to figure out how to reach higher areas with said Deku Flowers. You use them for combat, skip across poisonous water. Once you get the bow, you have to quickly adapt to your surroundings in creative ways. Even if you haven't played a Zelda game before, clues are laid out for you here. This torch is lined up precariously with the unlit central torch, and as the platform spins, you'll no doubt connect the dots here. This sets the player up for the Honey and Darling minigames, actually. Once again, everything is connected. The final room combines the 2 concepts. You'll have to hop from one platform to another before you run out of time. Although there are some tricky puzzles in Woodfall, the digestible 2-floor layout makes it very straightforward and a great way to ease the player into the rest of the dungeons. Snowhead Temple, things ramp up and challenge. There's a central tower that connects to each floor, and you can jump over to other platforms with a full-powered Goron. Your objective is to solve each room, raise the tower as you ascend, and climb your way to the top. These rooms focus on testing your knowledge of Goron Link for spatial awareness and so forth. After retrieving the fire arrows, more rooms open up that give you more information on how you're going to the top. Eventually, you'll need to knock the central platform down a few pegs with some Goron punches to connect the pathways. Although very puzzling, it is a natural evolution of the ideas fleshed out in previous series,
あなたは
and
100
it plays
年
with
前の
verticality
私
and
との
layout
思い出
memorization, hence
その
satisfying
全てを
things.
取り戻してくれ
Here,
ました
Dutch has become significantly
私は
more
ここで
asking you, have you been paying attention? Have you been seeking out upgrades? Or are you actually
ハイラルの
prepared?
城で待っ
The
ています
constant focus on redirecting the flow of water
あなたは薬剤
challenging
ガノ
mini
ン
bosses and a
打ち
confusing
倒
maze
し
of
てくれ
tunnels
る
in a
日
central pool, Great Bay Temple doesn't mess around. But through the previous dungeon's subtle methods of conditioning me to these ideas, I was able to find my way. I'm also a huge fan of how they incorporated ice arrows into puzzle solving here. They use pillars of ice to tilt platforms, halt the flow of water in certain areas, and even cross pools of water by creating platforms for yourself out of ice. Because of the aquatic nature of this dungeon, it became apparent to me that not only does the challenge develop from how well you can
Here
think
we
about
go.
a situation, but also how well you can navigate. Not just through the outstanding swimming mechanics brought to the table by the Zora mask, but also through the utilization of the ice arrows and knowledge of how the redirection of water affects the entire dungeon. However, a prime example of that balance between navigation and puzzle solving, and the pinnacle of design down these avenues, is the Stone Tower Temple. This dungeon is insane. Although the path forward is relatively clear most of the time, it is filled to the brim with some of the biggest head scratchers in Zora's mask, hands down. All three transformation masks get their moment in the spotlight, with even the music reflecting this. In each area, an instrument was used to represent the mask you'd be obtained. Stone Tower Temple uses all three of these instruments in its music, plus the ocarina, to represent life. The underused mirror shield returns from Ocarina of Time, and after being reintroduced in Ikana Castle, it is significantly fleshed out here. There's one room in particular that always stuck out to me. You have to stand in the light and charge up the mirror in front of you, and then quickly run over and point towards the path you want to take. By the end, you're transferring light from one mirror to another. I don't even understand how that works, or how I was even able to figure that out, but damn did it feel good to clear this room. But just as you might think you've cleared the dungeon and come out of it in one piece, you'll have to literally turn the dungeon on its head. Welcome to the Stone Tower Temple, inverted. If you'll allow me to go on a bit of a tangent, this dungeon is discussed by NPCs as an extremely dangerous area for humans. Its exterior looks as if its eyes are hollow and its mouth is crying out in despair. The music sounds sad, as if any attempt to clear the dungeon is meaningless. And although there are some tough enemies found, none of them can compare to the danger present as you avoid perpetually falling into the sky. The music sounds even more dire than before, utilizing a sound so crystal clear, it sounds like it should be possible on Nintendo 60. It fans around your ears and challenges your senses. While some rooms and puzzles may still be familiar with the inverted gravity, the experience is drastically altered. A room that once housed a massive gold Zora lake to swim around in and solve has been fleshed and now asks you to hover and hookshot around ever so carefully. Navigation is unorthodox, and simply getting from point A to point B becomes the main challenge. At the end, I had to kill this Ivor with my arrows, but I ran out of burning potions. I distinctly remember panicking at this moment, but I calmed myself down and took a look at my immediate surroundings. I found boxes filled with magic jars, and after scrambling, I managed to find my way back up thanks to a chest that was left over from the first half. Flipped upside down and stuck on the ceiling. This lateral thinking makes the Stone Tower Temple one of my favorite Zelda dungeons of all time. So many elements were accounted for, and yet it still managed to shatter any preconceived notions of what the dungeon would have been focused on tonight. In your reward for clearing it, a kaiju battle. Now, speaking of rewards, this is a stray fairy. At the beginning of the game, you have to retrieve one of them to a great fairy in North Lockdown. This is followed by a random game of hide and seek between the Bomber Societies and although these two concepts don't seem to correlate at first, once you are restored to your original form, the Great Fairy will grant you permanence, which attracts all nearby stray fairies to connect as long as they aren't trapped in the park. From here, you'll find out that 15 stray fairies appear in each dungeon, and they test you with various skills that you prove over the course of the game. They are not like Gold Skulltulas in Ocarina of Time. There is one thing that greatly sets them apart. I mentioned in my Ocarina of Time video that Gold Skulltulas proved to be the bridge into efficient exploration, due to the game's structure. Majora's Mask, however, features more densely packed areas with a lot to interact with and discover, rather than long stretches of land with occasional segmented challenges hidden here and there. As such, Majora's Mask didn't need to create that bridge. Before I even reached Woodfall, I had completed 2 extra heart containers just by moving around and using my acclimation to the world as an advantage when solving problems. I do, however, remain steadfast that the Stray Fairies make the player better at solving dungeons. There's just enough of them to keep the player invested in searching rooms for them, paying attention to every minute detail.
I believe I'd much rather go for defense.
Or making an excruciatingly difficult jump in Snowhead Temple, cutting corners with the Goron roll to just barely make it to another fairy in Stone Tower Temple felt rewarding enough.
May as well get the most out of all the weapons I have, you know?
But the truth is, although the gameplay felt rewarding, the actual tangible rewards for finding them all proved to be the cherry on top. Since each dungeon is more difficult than the last, so are the fairies to find, meaning that the rewards for finding them all get progressively better. All 15
Here we go.
Woodfall,
Oh, whoops.
enhanced spin attack.
You know what? I'm just gonna get rid of them.
All 15 in Snowhead,
Goodbye.
double magic gear. That's pretty awesome. All 15 in Great Bay, they cut the damage you receive in half. Now, that's amazing. But finally, if you get all 15 in Stone Tower Temple, you get the Great Fairy's Sword, a 2-handed weapon to rival Big Gorons. The prospect of making my playthrough easier by putting more effort in is what Majora's Mask is all about. And to come full circle, they made me better at finding all of the Skulltulas in those spider houses. Our 3 elements have come together. In dungeons, the difficulty progression is so effective, the reward for moving energy
That's enough of the weakling.
and the time management comes from fitting all of this into a single 3-day cycle. All of this is what makes Majora's Mask dangerously fucking fun. What once terrified me and stressed me out is simply pushing myself to improve. It's tough, it's stressful, it doesn't matter. And seeing how gameplay is like that discomfort is how I eventually made peace with it. And now, it's one of my favorite Zelda games. I found it, and it's deliberately impressive to me. And I can't hand out these teams without directness. And yet, there's still something I
Never mind, the $40 will be better here for this time.
There's something else that everything Majora's Mask wants to do is storytelling. I was really anxious doing everything I had to do before the moon fell. Imagine how the people of Termina. Understandably, live our lives day by day. On the second day, the tempo was faster and the ancient creation was scaled back. There's a sense of urgency and despite these compositions egging the player on as time passes, Locktown is the most social environment in the game. Everyone seems to reside and has the same. This is the story of how Majora's Mask was able to transform the question of what can you do for me into previous Zelda games. The world and its inhabitants were intentionally shown about as little more than motivation resources. Personal journey for the player through subtext was significant in its own motivation. There was, however, an outlier in the Zelda series on Yoshiaki Koizumi wrote the script of the very directly storytelling about the immorality of the series. Koizumi was the co-director and co-writer
I need to make sure I minimize the damage that I take. It's mandatory. Stop using that attack. Thankfully, I'm not in master mode.
Anything Zelda could ever see, and one that remains uncontested in its brilliance.
But yeah, master mode's regeneration thingy really does get in the way.
Not many townsfolk will take kindly
I like the regeneration, but I think I should install a mod that like changes the way regeneration works to be way slower
as we've discussed, it's necessary
if I want to enjoy master mode with Dark Army Resurrection. Of course, that's assuming I want to play Dark Army Resurrection again after all this bull crap.
about what you're doing. There are many optional conversations throughout Blocktown to watch certain characters cross paths. Although formally the mayor's office to discover what's trouble. He regrets leaving his brothers behind in the This is a recurring theme throughout the game. No matter what you do, the world is going to fall, and everyone is going to die. Even as you look back around, you want to save this factor. Please stop stalling. Allow
Lovely, 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 lovely.
some semblance of joy in our final acts. For example, this is the guy that gives you Turn from the ramps. Who's gonna fall? Something happened. Make sure to take this wrench down. Even Hunter senses he breaks his finger. Going on a jolly old march, he proclaims that he eased his only regret and that he's satisfied with presumably everything. There are plenty of words like this about the mayor sits passively as the soldiers and carpenters argue over how to handle the rumors that have spread about the food column. His indecisiveness could actively put the whole town in danger. This poor little monkey is being shamed for a crime that he didn't commit, and in order to prove his innocence, he'll have to be the one who I felt as if I was being influenced and improving the lives of everyone across Turkey. Even if they involve their lives, that's not fair. They have little time left. I'm sorry about this. So that you can find out. This notion is immortalized in one of Koji Kono's
Frick, I was busy eating.
As you play this part of the song for the major characters throughout the game, it represents them confronting their unfinished business. But as the melody progresses, it ascends back into hope, reassurance. Towards Armani, you assure him that his people will be taken care of. Mikal, you guarantee that his legacy will vanish. Despite sorrow overtaking their lives, and many of these people's lives, this song drowns their sorrows and allows them to be at peace, both figuratively and solve these problems, the underlying subtext is painfully stunning, yet deeply gratifying to see. Let's start with the mystery of the after stopping the bomb shop I brought one down the road and got it back to myself. Lamar is practicing the bow. She talks about starting the first now as it turns out, the two girls at the lecture. It's a sweet moment, but it becomes something to her older sister Trevor. The next night, after she delivers me to the Chateau Romano, she talks about everything that's on the road. Things going wrong at the ranch after their father's death, questioning about who is getting there. After being intercepted by the Coleman brothers and defending the car, she acknowledges it. Doing this again before the 3-day cycle ends, then the whole or catching the club in as the night of the 3rd day approaches, you can find her staying in the bar. Revia has known that the movie will everyone, no matter what they do. She decides to leave Romani's mind with thoughts of happiness and dreams. Then she can spend the final night being sad. When I discovered this interaction, I cried. I have a younger brother myself, and as I've learned over the years, I need to be strong. Even if I'm scared or upset, when it comes to family, Majora's Mask doesn't shy away from representing familial love in uncertain or otherwise threatening times. In Ikana Canyon, there's a house of memories. The door is usually locked until a little girl comes out and scares me. Inside her closet is a half-mummified monstrosity of a man, and although he's a little creepy, he's completely awesome. Thus, letting the song be himself. As soon as this happens, the little girl will rush in and give him a big hug, reassuring him he was just having a bad day. It's such a small moment, as if the game didn't want to be Pamela had been living on her own and fending for herself ever since her father was released. She hid from the rest of the world, everyone, at the expense of her own childhood innocence. As far as child characters go, Pamela is one of the strongest I've ever seen for a subtext of saving her father, I gave her the opportunity to help him in terms of representing love, there's one quest that I could never go without mentioning. It both completes the brilliance of this game's writing and embodies everything that Majora's Mask stands for and consistently delivers on. This is the tale of Manju and First thing in the morning of the first day, following the postman's reveal that this letter is addressed to Manju, and if you piece together the fact that the day is on this end, you'll no doubt have his message to go on that you're willing to help. She hints that she's scared to see how he looks. When you deliver her letter and you a child by stealing. Despite this, he still intends to live long. He wants to fulfill that promise. The two of them, at one point, were supposed to exchange masks to become engaged. Sakon took off with Kafei's minutes, that guy from the Curiosity Shop. So, after all of the conditions have been met, you finally wait outside of Sakon's island. It's time to storm the base of the get this mask back. Oh wait, hold on a sec, I gotta unconvert the flow of time. Let me just leave here. Song. There we go. Okay, here I come. The door closed. Blockhead. Failing this quest after coming so far not only means going through this process all over again, but it also means that you were responsible for not reuniting these two. It's one of the most painful quests to fail, both from a gameplay perspective and an emotional one. Thankfully, I had a friend to play with so I could be side jumping. What follows is a race against time as you rush to the beach. Stop his backs to the beach. If all goes well, the Fate will get mad and make his way over to Blockhead. Prior to this, Manju swore that he would stay despite the evacuation orders. In hopes that he could see Kafei one last time before he died. The clock tower, you'll get near the most tragic song in Majora's Mask. Blockhead is deserted. People are in the second down.
奴の体験に気をつけな。
Oh,
It is a confrontation of this game's most frightening elements in aggressive yet beautiful detail. This game may excel in but upon further examination, it is an experience that stems from uncertainty and ultimately death. But fear is a choice. What we decide to do with what time we have left is also a choice. So choose and don't waste your time. These are cherry-picked examples of jam-packed with this. I never mentioned the
No.
postman being constantly stuck to his schedule despite desperately wanting something. I never mentioned Mr. Bartend waiting for his favorite customer to walk in before he dies. It's
oh god.
Majora's Mask has always been far more than this.
今だ。一気に行こうぜ。
I don't think I've truly touched upon its message. After assembling the four giants to order atop the clock tower, the giants used everything in their power to hold
Oh my god.
Skull Kid's plan. However, when he fails, Majora's Mask takes over.
やる
Let
な。
this nightmare once and for all, because it's one part of the power. Inside. This area perfectly encompasses all of Link's forms, that of which you're collecting allows you to access. As you all the masks, final full heart pieces, as well as the amazing Fierce Deity's mask, after giving all of yours to the children of the moon. Seriously,
Holy
this thing
shit.
tears through Majora. After all of the work I put in, it feels emphatic to have a reward like this for use in the final battle. And the final boss is wildly fun and everything, but the most important takeaway from the inside of the moon leads into the true heart of Majora's Mask. After clearing their challenges, the children of the moon will ask you questions about yourself. Although vague at first, the game's final scene should give you an idea of what these kids were trying to say. Just before entering Woodfall, you'll watch a montage of Skull Kid's life before he got a hold of Majora's Mask. He was...
Okay, I guess dying soft locks the game.
Once
In the
Majora's
final
Mask
fight.
took him over, however, his friends left him alone. Those friends were the giants. And despite thinking his friends resented him for his actions, they were willing to forgive him anyway. Before the Happy Mask salesman sets off, he leaves us with these words. Whenever there is a meeting, parting is sure to follow. However, that parting need not last forever. Whether a parting forever, or merely for a short time, that is up to you. Do we really want our ultimately petty squabbles to crush what were once cherished connections and friendships? Do we really wish to forget these people ever existed on our deathbeds? Do I really want to live only for myself before I ultimately pass on? Of course not. Everyone has their own battles to overcome, and it's important to remember that. Allowing ourselves to be consumed by isolation when we never know what tomorrow might bring would not be a good way to exit this life. As the Happy Mask salesman says, and as his name implies, the masks I have are filled with happiness. Have I done enough here? Well, who's to say when I've served my purpose? The most I can do, with what time I have left, is be selfless. Act for the sake of others, not for myself. As long as I know that I'm bringing happiness to others, rather than anger or sadness, then I'll feel as though I'm doing my job. I may not be able to make everyone happy, but I regret passing away without being an irreplaceable part of a jovial social ecosystem. This is what Majora's Mask conveys through every aspect of its design and narrative. Its feedback loop, its dungeons, its quests, and its world, as you do everything in your power to help others and spread joy, which in turn makes the world a better place, or you leave it forever. I've been Liam Triforce. Thanks for watching.
I'll go give this one more try for now. Otherwise, I might just hold it off and do the other side quests first. That or make the mod easier.
Video is brought to you by Byte.com. Ever feel solitary, friendless, floating around, harsh, forgiving? Don't freak out, because not alone. You're abject. Yes. And with study from which we found nearly 3 out of 5 certain groups are like lower parents. Oh, but the problem overwhelmed 2019 0 7 on face, and I wouldn't anybody. It also makes us wonder what happens in society on friendship factor. So how did friendship is there anything to get? Let's find out in this wisecrack edition. Is friendship? Because don't forget, that's my
Let's do this. But smarter.
One at a time, we're pregnant. It's sad. But that's why I'm so excited about this sponsor. It's a company started I got it. Really did it. But now I can play ramen. Now, philosophers continue only one day for years, identifying necessary where you vicariously partake in the one's out ulterior motive. It's such an arrogant line, without unconditional love, irrespective of their millions of TikTok followers or music or then there's intimacy. Now, such method according to Aristotle makes intimate friendships something someone who reflects the act of capacity for parts of it. Then there's sharing activity, i.e.,
itself, not for utility. The philosophical value of friendship is well established. Physical and psychological health. The Mayo Clinic result in strong social bonds are less likely to suffer from health problems like depression or high blood pressure, and other findings suggest strong friendship lowers stress levels. Friendship also increases self-love, self-esteem, and overall health. Data supports this as well, namely that not having friends contributes to everything from violent crime and danger. It even leads to a risk of cardiovascular So why is something so obviously good, which makes us feel and live so much better, dominated Western culture as well. No friendships evolved in the era, they were largely cultivated. This changed. This suggests not that there wasn't hope, but that there were that. By the early 20th century, kin or faith, friendship was the social by the mid-20th century, aided by everything, post-war affluence, affordable, the mainstream, on the political movements, which united groups of people around shared convictions. Shout out to political friends. Best-selling book, The Lonely Crowd, David arguing that no people were this is just something like the inverse relationship between one's breadth of friendships and the depth of their friendships. Where that relationship is something about the wide relevant networks. As Robert the last he attributed this change to things like generational shifts. However, just a year before, philosopher Zygmunt Bauman argued that liquid
was going for the wind gust attack. Perfect.
The transient and amped up mobility of contemporary life, according to theories like this extend into the present day, with thinkers identifying individualism academic Marina Hirst, that today we're still which she says made us see ourselves as competitive this way, the climate friendship isn't about being personally part of the structural shift. People choose not to but shout out to everyone else offering parties. Hey, if you don't have something to talk to, is there a lot of more? Importantly, some of this sociologists were bars, nail salons, units where we can get together now, there's been things like education, but very academic just work at home, limited. And to the commenters, we say this in advance. It's crazy. But where we are and where we are, video games are crazy. Establish. But you might be thinking that might not have the same types of physical spaces as we once did. Digital spaces have a friendship and socialization that far transcend what we used to get as adults. But to be clear, there are many positives about digital spaces and friendships. The place where I go for digital friendship is Wisecrack Live. But I legit think of a lot of you there as my friends. You know who you are, fellow lords of the chat. But hey, check it out. It's digital. But at the same time, they have to be fun. Well, as Philosopher and Echo, the internet is the remedy will only be many, but it turns out and it generates no Facebook, which ends up scoring out by once those businesses more times a week and tripling the odds of isolated counterparts, which is less than 9 times. 50 a week, I realistically probably open the Twitter app 50 times a day. I should stop it. In a 2020 study, 7 out of 10 social media will be 20% more than likes. Another study found that spending too much time on your phone can make face-to-face interactions work on the phone. In fact, the mere presence of the phone during a meal makes it more distracted and another study in 2000 leading Facebook was up to 40%. This makes sense when you think about the kind of interaction. Birds argues that social media encourages perfectly curated lives that perpetuates authenticity, which could counter rather than this obviously implies we may engage in mutual disclosure when we tweet about our bowel movements, but it's calibrated to make us seem invidious rather than there's the additional layer of competitiveness. All players some lots of likes and others crickets, which doesn't exactly make sense. But of course, social media more many provides people like moving us to content. Some studies even suggest that these interactions ameliorate some amount of our loneliness. We scroll those like humanity. Seriously, that's a wonderful thing. What's wrong with the next question where mid-century folks attempt to cultivate wild networks led to feelings of loneliness, they have to wonder, what's the actual effect of trying to cultivate 400 or 400,000 followers?
Yatsu no taiken ni ki o tsuke na.
Social media other than the dream of the past or desire, one kind of long-term friendships that sustain, make us healthier, happier. Importantly, if most human interaction used to take place in non-commercial public spaces, today we're increasingly online, privately owned commercial spaces. We discussed this in more detail in this video on Online. Figure out that means our online interactions are entirely online, interrupted by ads, broken down on data, so they get more it's kind of depressing. But of course, friendship still exists. And even if we live most of our lives online, there are communities and spaces where we can meet new people.
I don't know how to deal with that. Oh, okay, I guess I do now.
This type of friendship compared to what Aristotle did. While he imagined virtuous friendships would describe the nature of relationships, it often looks like awkward relationships online like social media. While none of these interactions are great or bad, we'll do a lot more around data collection into virtual. What do you guys think as the peak era of friendship for 2005? First, no individuals, connection. We're going to find a And thank you so much to all of you for
やっちまいな
giving us the space to explore. I mean, it feels like this hot, comments that, you know, all this stuff. But for now, thank you so much for watching.
Title, you already know what we're going to be doing, but on the off chance you hadn't, we'll be trying to complete a full 70-star run of Super Mario Galaxy 2 while using the least amount of jumps humanly possible. This means that no task is going to be involved in the making of this video, and everything shown is by what do I count as a jump? I'll be counting everything that requires Mario to push himself off the ground with his feet. This means that bouncing off enemies and sneaking off lines will not be counted as a jump before Since this is a part of a cutscene, this will not be counting. Unfortunately, right after we jump to this other pipe. On the next screen, we get a little star friend that gives us the ability to spin. This new ability is definitely going to be useful, but for now we can't really do anything. More jumps. This short tutorial is pretty much cutscene only, so we can reach our first galaxy with this launch star. The first star we'll need to grab is from Sky Station Galaxy, and it starts out with us needing to get into this green pipe. This thankfully isn't a problem for us, since we have the new spin ability that allows us to gain a small bit of height when we're not touching the ground. The next area of this level is the wall jump in the sky up. You can actually use this nearby up to both arms of the wall. One more time towards the end of the level as well. At this section with 2 small planets and a crystal, you can find an angle that will allow you to reach the next area and reach the boss fight with your arm. This fight is unchanged from normal gameplay. All we have to do is spin for a couple times to extract the star he's carrying, but we do have to jump one time to grab the star since this planet is completely empty. After grabbing our first star, we reach this planet that is transformed just like Mario. This is our starship, and you can simply go from galaxy to galaxy using this ship. Just like our small ship, is a service that helps keep your online identity safe by allowing you to change your IP address by using one of their many servers around the world. This can also allow you to bypass region-specific restrictions on websites like Netflix. But that's not all this service has to offer. In addition to being able to completely hide your location, all the information from your device that gets sent to the internet is as well. The public Wi-Fi everybody's been saying isn't safe will now be perfectly fine to use. And all you can do is just press one button once you start up the app. I can say that this product does exactly what it says it does, and it makes me feel confident with using the internet since there's a lot of people trying to steal your information online nowadays. So if you accidentally click a location stealing link, you can feel safe knowing that they didn't actually give you your location. Anyways, if you want to try out Surfshark for yourself, you can look at the description or use code plus 3 free months. If you don't end up liking the service, you can always get a refund using their back guarantee. There's really no risk if you just want to test out the water a little bit. Huge thanks to Surfshark for sponsoring the video, and once again, you can check out the links in the description if you're interested in the service. Galaxy, and of course by reading the name, you'll know what the character we're going to meet. Starting off, we reach the hardest part of the entire galaxy, which just so happens to be this little tiny edge at the very beginning. You can just barely bounce on this corner and on top of it, and the rest of this area can be completed easily, letting us reach Yoshi without jumping a single time. Now that we have Yoshi, though, we have some more rules to go over. I do count Yoshi jumps as a jump for Mario, and I also count dismounting Yoshi as a jump, but I do not count his flutter ability as a jump. The rest of this level is a breeze to run through. We have to bounce off through a couple times and grab the star using these green flowers. 0 jumps. The second star we can grab from Yoshi's Star Galaxy starts out simple, but we do have to perform a series of E-moves to move on to the boss fight that is King Black. This boss fight is, of course, no match for Yoshi's abilities, but the star does require a precise flutter from him. I decided to head back to Sky Station Galaxy for our 4th star, just to be met with a 2D section, which of course got me a little bit worried. Thankfully, this 2D section actually doesn't require any jumps at all to get through, and the final section of the Star 1 is Piranha Plant and damage boost of 1 time. 0 jumps. Our next first galaxy to visit was Spin Dig Galaxy, and our first star was pretty straightforward. We get introduced to a new item called the Spin Drill, and we use this item to reach the opposite side of the planet. We also get a little bit of height after using it, so we can bounce on certain enemies to reach higher areas. The boss battle for this star is unchanged from normal gameplay. After the star, we have a Fluffy Bluff and a Right Side Down Galaxy. I decided to build a Right Side Down Galaxy first because I knew there was a free star we could plant there by going into this pipe, burning some boxes, going to the second pipe, and then burning more boxes. Zero jumping. Now we're on to Fluffy Bluff Galaxy, and we get introduced to a new power-up called the Cloud Flower. This power-up can let us create clouds at a time that we can use as platforms. I was going to play the first star for this galaxy, but it would definitely require more than one jump, so I decided to build this second star that requires us to grab 30 coins that we can obtain by completing this pipe. After we collect the 30 coins, we can make our way to the tree that has a sling star leading us to a hungry planet of our money to return for a new planet. This planet contains a very tall tower, and it seems
No way. I need electro resistance to do that strategy.
Once we get halfway up the tower, we can scurry on over to the backside of the tower and slide off one of our clouds to
What
find
do I
a secret
do?
area that will bring us to the top of the tower.
Frick.
After that, we can gain height from this weird spinning platform and get a boosted sight look using one of our clouds. One jump. After completing this level, we're able to move on to our final galaxy of World 1. Clouds are juniors, fire, and Mozilla. The level function for this doesn't require any jumps, and the boss battle for this galaxy is against Gobblegut. This fight is unchanged from normal gameplay, so we can take care of him very easily. The Grand Star does unfortunately require a jump to grab. Now that we've defeated our first major boss battle, we can move on to World 2, which introduces us to a galaxy called Puzzle Plank Galaxy. The first star would require a few jumps, but there's a secret star we can collect by grabbing a whole bunch of coins. This does cost one jump, but it's definitely better than what the original star would have gotten us. After this star, we can head over to Boulder Bowl Galaxy, where we get introduced to Rock Mario. This power-up allows Mario to plow through pretty much anything in his way at high speeds. The only limitation to this is that we can't really get to higher areas very easily, so we'll have to use the side of these fences to move around the galaxy. The boss battle for this star was pretty simple, and the transformation of becoming Rock Mario can allow you to grab the star. Hightail Falls introduces us to Yoshi power-ups, and this Hot Pepper power-up allows Yoshi to run at high speeds.
Wow.
This level isn't very difficult. The Silver Stars level for this galaxy was also pretty easy. 0 jumps. For Cosmic Cove's star, we would once again have to jump multiple times, so I went for a secret star that has us catch a star bunny that required no jumps. We started to run out of stars to grab to reach the next Castle Galaxy, so I decided to go back to Spin Dig Galaxy to grab this second star. This was a pretty easy star to grab, but it does unfortunately require a jump to hop into the pipe. I also decided to try out Flip Swap Galaxy, which costed some star bits to unlock.
I'm gonna think about this some other day.
Pretty easy, but the star